and welcome to another Hayley-Roxanna crafts video. Last time I showed you the last stitch for finishing off our castle design. So today I'm going to show you how to turn this into a hanging decoration. I always think it's nice to do something with your finished cross stitch pieces. It can be something as simple as framing it, turning it into a greeting card, if it's a smaller design particularly. But also to do things like hanging decorations, bunting, banners, cushion covers, things that are a little bit different. But also means that you get to display your finished piece or even give it as a gift. All the charts that I sell come with instructions like these. These ones are for a hanging decoration. In the instructions you get a little introduction, a guide on how to get started, a basic guide to your cross stitch, so the different stitches that are used and how they are shown in the chart. But also your instructions for making your finished design into, in this case, a hanging decoration. So you get the instructions with pictures and words to try and help you and help me describe it to you of how to do this. So today we're going to go through some of these steps. I will show you some of the stitches that are used and give you some hints and tips for making your hanging decoration. So to start with, we need our fabric and our ribbon. The ribbon I've chosen is this yellow and white stripes. It's 10mm wide, which I find is just right for doing these hanging decorations. And then my fabric, this blue fabric, and I've got a fat quarter of it. Now I love the fat quarters, especially when I'm doing things with my cross stitches. I find they are the perfect size. You can get them in packs or bundles of sort of 4 or 5 different pieces. The designs in these bundles tend to complement each other, but the actual sizes of the fabrics are perfect and they're not overly expensive. Okay, so I'm going to go and cut what I need from this and my ribbon, give everything an iron including the cross stitch so everything's nice and flat, and then I will show you how to pin it all together ready for stitching to make the hanging decoration. Right. So we have cut our fabric and ribbon, so that's all ready to go. You want to make sure that you use your sharp scissors when you are cutting your fabric and ribbon, your ones that you're using just for cutting fabric. And I've given everything an iron. When you're ironing your finished cross stitch design, best way to do it is place it face down on a soft padded surface or even like a towel. Just have the towel underneath it and then iron on the back, just so you don't squash all your stitches. Okay, never ever iron it on the front because that will squash the stitches down. Okay, right, so let's show you how to pin our ribbon in place. So if we've got our ribbon and we just need a pin. If your ribbon has got a design just on the one side, then for this bit you do need that side facing you. Okay, so facing up, right side up. And you're just going to take one end of the ribbon and place it onto the pin, like so. And then you're going to take the other end and bring it round and place that onto the pin. Okay, so you've got it like that. So if you've got the design, it would be facing you. So we're then going to just flip that over and we'll take our finished cross stitch piece, and you want to find the centre along the top. You might need to count, but for this design I know that this point here was actually in line with the centre of the fabric. So if I just come up from this point towards the top and then pop the ribbon in like so. Okay, so that's the ribbon in place. That one pin is usually just enough to hold it. If you're not confident, you can always put one across. You then need to take your fabric, okay, and decide which way around you want it. And then you're going to place the right side of the fabric down on the front of your finished design. So the right sides are facing each other. Okay, and you just want to line your edges up as best you can. Flip it over, because I always find putting the pins in on the Ada side is much easier. Okay, like so. And then we're going to take some more pins and we're going to place them in. So if I come along the top first, I always come 5 squares in. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and just pop your pin in like so. The pins hold your fabric together while you're stitching. It also gives you the guide of where to stitch along, so you stitch in a straight line. Same again here, like so. And then if we stitch the sides, I'll just turn it round like this. Okay, and you want to make sure you're in 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And place your pin in. And the same on the other side. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And place in your pin. Like so. And then just one along the bottom. Like that. Okay, so it's all pinned together. You can always just pop your finger in and give your ribbon a little, if I can find it, little pull just to make sure that it's in a straight line. Okay, and pull that bit up like so. You can pop that pin down through the hole if you want, but I tend to just leave mine sticking up like that and I cope. Okay, you just got to be careful you don't stab yourself on it. But there we go, that's that pinned together, ready for stitching. So now we're ready to stitch the hanging decoration together. So for this, I have got some actual sewing thread rather than using my embroidery thread. We just need to cut, I've used blue, I've chosen the blue for doing this. In some ways it doesn't matter what colour you use, as the way I stitch it, you can't really see the stitches afterwards, but I do prefer to try and use a colour that either matches your backing fabric or your Ada, so a white in this case, or blue. I've gone for the blue as this will show up better for me demonstrating as well. So you just need to pull off roughly about 1.5 meters is probably enough, and we just chop that off there, and then I can put that spool of thread out of the way. We then need to thread up an actual sewing needle. So like I've said back in one of my previous videos, a sewing needle has got a sharper end on it compared to the tapestry needles that you use for doing your cross stitch. Okay, so that's much better for when you're sewing your pieces together. Just makes it easier. So if we take our cotton, now I like to double mine up. I just find it makes it a bit stronger, makes the stitches stronger, holds it together better. Again, this is my preference. Some people might not like doing that. So I just pull the two ends together like so. Make sure you haven't got any tangles. And then if we take our sewing needle and we just want to thread the end. So the same as when you're threading up your embroidery needle, you just need to push your needle onto the thread rather than trying to push the thread through the eye of the needle. Okay, like so, and then just pull it down a bit so you haven't got too much of a end. It's a bit hard to show you all of it in one shot with it being so long. Okay, so we then need to start stitching. When you stitch this together, you need to make sure that we have a gap at the bottom, because obviously at the moment the wrong sides are facing us, so we'll need to turn it the right way once we've done most of the stitches. Okay, so I always start along the bottom, right, but because I want to leave that gap, I start towards the edge, okay, towards this side. So not too far, but too close, but you don't want to be too far away either, because like I said, you want to make sure you've got a gap at the end. So I'll start about here. And I just push my needle down. Now you will have noticed I didn't put a knot on the end of the thread. I find with the sewing thread, if you knot it, it still pulls straight through if you're not careful. So to give me a stronger start, and this is part of the reason why I double it up and thread the ends through the needle like I just did. So if you pull it through, part the way, don't pull it all the way through. And then you want to come back up. In the next hole, I use my Aida fabric as a guide for where I want my stitches, like so. Got a lovely bright spot of sun there that keeps getting in the way. Pull it through, and then you just want to pop your needle through the loop at the end of that sewing thread. Okay, so then when you finish pulling that through, it doesn't come all the way through, and you've got a nice strong start there that's not going to pull through, come undone. Okay, absolutely perfect. Okay, now we're going to do a running stitch around this. So your running stitch, you're literally going to go up and down in your fabric. Okay, so you'll go down here, and you just got to watch as you're pulling through. You don't catch your pins, sometimes you do, and you just have to move the thread. Okay, so that's the beginning bit. Then we're going to come up in the next hole. Like I said, when you're stitching on with Aida fabric, you can use the holes as a guide to help keep your stitches the right size or the same size. If you're just stitching with on cotton, like 2 cotton fabrics together, then you're not going to have that option. Okay, and you have to just sort of judge it. But with the Aida fabric, you can use it as a guide. So up like so, and then down in the next hole. That's it, and then up. Trying to stop it from blurring so you can see as well. It's very awkward to do on camera, I must say. It's a lot easier when you haven't got a camera between you and your work. But never mind. Okay, so we come up there. Now, when you're 5 stitches from the end, so you're in line with where this pin is. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So I'll come down this one. Now, I need to turn for the next bit. So I'm just going to turn it round and pull it through. And I get a little, sometimes it will just try and knot. So you just have to make sure you pull it loose and pull it down. There we go. And then you want to come up. To then come along the side. There we go. Like I said, awkward. Okay, and just keep this running stitch going, this up and down, up and down. Show you one more. So we'll come up and down. Then obviously as you come up, when you get to your pin, you can just pull that out once your pin's in the way, so you can carry on along. And we will keep going. All right, I will stitch, I won't make you sit through it all. I will carry on stitching up here and along the top here till we get to where our ribbon is, because when I come to the ribbon I do something slightly different, so I will show you that in a moment. Okay, so I've done the running stitching all the way along there, up the side and all the way to where the ribbon is. Now when I get to the ribbon, I do something slightly different. I do a back stitching on the ribbon. I find this just makes it a little bit stronger, because obviously your decoration is going to be hanging up from the ribbon, so you just want to make sure it's very securely attached. So to do that, we're going to go down just like we do with the running stitch. Okay, and then just want to make sure that pin's not in your way. Come up in the next hole. If you can find it, there we go. It can be a little bit harder because you're pushing through more layers of fabric. Now, instead of going into the next hole along, you're going to come back into the previous hole. So back stitching, just like the back stitching when you were doing your actual cross stitch. Okay, then we're going to come up into the next hole like so, and again come back into back down the previous hole, like so. And come up into the next hole. Like so. And back down the previous. Come up in the next hole. Back down in the previous. And then the next hole, I might just need to push that pin slightly out the way. I'm having a fun time trying to find the holes today. No, I think I've missed completely. Let's try that again. There we go. That's got it. And back. And then because that's now the length of that ribbon done, I'm going to then come up in that the hole at the end of my back stitching, so just there and down. I can now take this pin out, so it's out of the way, as we don't need that anymore, and then this pin will also come out, and then I can continue stitching in the running stitch along here, back down this side, and when I get back down to this bottom corner, I will then show you how far along we go and what to do next as far as finishing off your hanging decoration. Alright, so you can see I have finished stitching along the top and down this side, and I've just come to this last corner. So I have turned to start going along. Like so. Now you don't want to go too far along. So like I said at the beginning, you need to leave a gap here so we can turn our decoration the right way round. Okay, so if I just do 2, maybe 3 along the bottom, and if I come up here, okay, and then I'm happy with that, but I want to finish with my thread between the 2 fabrics, so I'm just going to go down this hole, but I'm not going to push it all the way through. Okay, I'm going to bring it up. You need to make sure it's not catching the blue. This is very awkward on camera. Trust me, it's not this awkward when you haven't got a camera between you and your work. So like so. Okay, so that your thread is now between your 2 pieces of fabric. Okay, so that's all the running stitching done. Show you both sides. Okay, you can just about see the blue there. Now, you want to leave it there. We're not going to thread it off because we haven't actually finished sewing yet, because we've got to sew up the gap once we've turned it the right way. So you can just leave it all attached while you're doing the next bits. It's absolutely fine. Now, we need to take our scissors, and the next thing we need to do is we just need to chop the corners off the fabric. This is so that when you turn it the right way, you haven't got a big bulky lump in your corner. Okay, it just helps it sit nicely. So just make sure you've moved that thread out of the way. Okay, I'll show you this. You want to cut close to your corner, but not so close that you're going to go and accidentally cut your running stitches. Okay, so like so, and just chop the corner off. And we'll turn it round and we'll do the other corner. Like so. And again. Okay, just to make sure that you don't have that big bulky lump in the corner. Okay, and once more along the bottom. Okay, that's that done. Move the scissors out of the way. Now we need to turn this the right way round. Just get those out of the way. Those can go in the bin, don't need them. Okay, so this is why we've left the gap at the bottom, because you are now going push everything through that gap. Okay, like so. So you screw it all up a bit, but trust me, it will come right. And you need to make sure that you poke the corners out. Okay, you can get your finger in to do it. Okay, push your finger in. If you find it a bit awkward, you could use a blunt object. People suggest like knitting needles. or even like a crochet hook. I've used a small crochet hook before, and you just push it into the corner gently, just to make sure that you push that corner right through. Okay, now you also need to make sure that you do your bottom corners, which can be slightly awkward because you haven't really got much stitching there. Okay, like so. This side in particular, you might just need to give your thread a little bit of a pull occasionally, but if you push that corner, it will go. There you go, like so. Just give that thread another pull. And then you just need to fold the bottom of your fabrics over where they meet. Okay, so you've got that little seam allowance along your bottom, like so. Okay, turn it round, there we go. And then you're just going to turn that upside down and give it all an iron, just to make sure that all your seams are lying flat. And it also helps with this bottom bit here to make sure that you've got your seam allowances tucked in before you sew up the bottom bit. And also we need to stuff it before we sew it up, so I will show you that in a minute. I'll just go and iron this. Okay, so we've got it now all ironed flat, so we're now ready to stuff it. Now I've got just some toy stuffing. Okay, so 100% high loft polyester soft toy filling. Okay, this is fine, just need a bundle of it. How much you use sort of depends on how full you want your hanging decoration to be. So we're just going to use that hole again and just take a little bit at a time and stuff it through the hole. And you want to make sure that you're pushing it right into your corners. Okay, so you really fill your stuff, fill the hanging decoration up. Okay, like so. Stuff it in. Again, make sure you're giving it a push so you're getting it right into the corner. Give it a squeeze so you can decide whether it's full enough. So now I'd say the bottom half's full, but obviously need a bit more at the top, so I should put a little bit in. You can roughly, by weight, the amount I use is sort of 4 to 5 grams of the toy stuffing. When I have weighed it, I haven't actually weighed it today, I'm just doing it by feel, which is absolutely fine. If you sort of squeeze your gap closed and see whether you feel like you've got enough there, you might feel you need a little bit more. Okay, so just put a bit more in. You don't want too much, but just fill it up as much as you want. Okay, you don't want it hanging out and getting in the way as you're sewing your gap up, so you need to make sure you push it right down like so, and then just make sure you can close the gap. If you think you've overstuffed it slightly, you can always pull a bit out if you need to. I actually think that's okay. If I just push that down, I'll just have to hold it in as I'm stitching. Okay, but that should be all right. And now we're just going to stitch up the end. I'll move that extra little bit out of the way. So you've just got to find where your needle's gone. There we go. Now, to stitch up this bit, we are going to use a slip stitch. It's also sometimes called a ladder stitch, which you will see why as we're doing it. Just pull that in. Okay. So, to do this stitch, you're going to go... In fact, I'm just going to pull a bit of this stuffing out because I think I overstuffed slightly. Okay, sometimes you can't tell till you come to actually try and stitch it together, and then you're like, nope, can't hold that. That's better. Right, let's get rid of that little extra bit. Right, so you slip stitch. So you hold it together. Alright, so you need to go in on the opposite side. You're just going to push your needle in and out. You want to try and keep within your seam allowance, okay, so you're not actually pushing through to the back of the fabric, and this helps to keep your thread hidden when you pull it together at the end. Okay, like so. And then do the same on the side of the Ada. So you're going to go into one hole and out the next and pull that through. Okay, and then just repeat. So we'll do that again. So on the side of the cotton fabric, push it through, making sure you're not coming out the back. Just going a little way along before you bring the needle back out. And then the same on the Ada side. You want to go in where the holes are. Like so, and back out. And what you'll find when you're doing this stitch is that every few stitches, you will then just need to give your thread, push that in, give your thread a bit of a pull, and it just closes up the seam. Okay, as you can see, it's called a ladder stitch because when you're like that, you look like you've got ladders. Okay, so I'm going to continue this all the way along, just going in and out on that side, making sure I don't push through the back, and then in and out on this and pull it together. And I will go all the way along, and as I get towards the other end, I will then show you how we finish it off. Okay, so I have finished slip stitching all the way along the gap. I just need to pull my thread again just to tighten up these last few stitches, like so. And as you can see, it just disappears, gap's gone. Okay, we're all done. So now we just need to finish off our thread so we can attach this. So what I try and do is I just go underneath the running stitch. You see, you can just sort of catch the stitch like so, and then I take my thread and just wrap it around my needle and push the needle through, and that will give me a knot. And sometimes if I'm feeling like I need to make sure it's extra secure, I will just go under the next running stitch if I can find it. There we go, like so. Just pop under the next one and take my thread round and give it a pull, and then I'm just going to push the needle back in through there. Okay, let's get it in. There you go. Push it along a little way. You don't want to lose the needle inside it, so do be careful, and then try and come back up roughly where your seam is once more. It's a little bit low. Let's see if I can just get that a bit like so. That's it, that'll do. Pull that through. Okay, and if you pull it a little bit tight, so your corner does come slightly in, don't panic yet, that will come back. So I'm going to pull it tight so you can then snip your thread off as close down as you can. Move those out the way. And then just push your corner back out. And as you can see, your thread has vanished. And it's pretty much invisible. Okay, invisible as you can get. It is slightly easier when you haven't got the camera between you and what you're stitching, trust me. And then we can just give it a squeeze, just to redistribute the stuffing inside to make sure that it's all nicely done. Okay, and then once you're happy with it, we'll have our finished piece. So here's the finished castle hanging decoration. You don't have to make these designs into the hanging decorations. Like I said, you can just put it in a picture frame if you want. You can also get like coasters that have like a gap to put something in. They do them for like photos as well, but you can get one specifically for cross stitch designs. So the gap's just that little bit thicker, so your design fits in properly with like the cover that goes on the back. Those work quite well. My mum has actually combined a few of my Christmas cross stitch hanging decorations to make a cushion cover, which is something else you could do with my designs. Okay, so I will pop links to items that I have used in today's video below. If you've got any questions, stick them in the comments. Do my best to answer them as always. And yeah, thank you for watching, and I will see you in my next video.